Greetings all, and welcome to the 9th episode of TM Technical Movement. For today, we'll be looking at the Barrage, Fury Swipes, Cut, False Swipe, Quick Attack, Extreme Speed, Present and Natural Gift Attacks, and the Nature Power and Splash techniques.
Considered to be the signature attack of the Execute family, the Barrage attack involves striking the opposition with rounded objects multiple times in succession. Since they technically consist of several members linked together, Execute have more than enough capacity to utilize multi-strike attacks, but are seemingly unable to because of a lack of limbs with physical strength. Until they learn more powerful attacks like Bullet Seed, the solution to this problem is fairly simple for the species. They simply throw themselves at the opposition and use their own bodies as projectiles. In the case of their evolved form Executor, the attack can actually come as two different manifestations. Under normal circumstances, Executor will modify the leaves to shoot seed-like pieces of hardened bark material in close quarters, but this may not always work given the size of the projectiles. As such, when in need of a better aim at a distance, Executor will instead rotate their bodies rapidly and fling their own heads to initiate the attack. This variation of the Fury attack, named the Barrage attack, is practically identical to it in all ways, including its accuracy rate, base power, stamina cost, type, and the ability to strike 2 to 5 times before an opponent can react, but it's nonetheless notably different in that it does not require physical contact to use, though it is still affected by items like King's Rocks. In addition, because the attack actually strikes multiple times in a short period of time, it can be used to override the effects of the Sturdy ability and items like the Focus Sash or Focus Band, as well as amplify the effects of the Weak Armor ability. Overall, the Barrage attack is still fairly underpowered, and is too costly in terms of stamina to be of much use in professional combat, but when nothing else is available, it can still prove to be a more effective tool than similar attacks for its extended execution range. Since an Executor or Executor has to use part of its own body to deliver a Barrage attack, striking or otherwise blocking the individually thrown objects cannot produce or completely negate the damage dealt by this attack. If this is not an option, however, fairly agile Pokémon can still dodge the attack with enough room. Although the attack is capable of taking advantage of abilities like Sturdy and Weak Armor, as well as items like the Focus Sash and Focus Band, the amount of damage done by even a few blows is still minor enough in many cases to be negligible, reducing its overall effectiveness in line with more powerful attacks with similar functions. Armor of almost any quality can easily repel the damage done by each individual strike, making it nearly impossible to make use of the attack unless the opposition is unarmored. Even so, weaker armor may become slightly damaged by the attack's repeated blows, which can potentially lead to complications if combat lasts for an extended period of time, or if one's Pokémon is relatively low on energy. Much as its name suggests, the Fury Swipes attack basically involves a furious raking of sharp claws to size across the exposed flesh of an opponent, dealing light damage repeatedly within a short period of time and causing some lacerations in the process. Unlike carefully placed scratch or slash attacks, the Fury Swipes attack is effectively a blind strike performed out of sheer fury without any regards to aim or target location. While this makes the attack particularly inaccurate, the fact that most Pokémon learn it fairly early in their lives helps to compensate for this problem. Because each strike is initiated quickly without regard to applied force, the damage dealt by each strike is remarkably low, but the strikes come quickly enough that an opponent cannot easily block more than one of them in a sequence. On average, a single Fury Swipes attack can strike an opponent 2 to 5 times before the user has to relax his muscles slightly to prepare for another attack, in turn dealing a considerable amount of damage in the right cases. Unfortunately, the sheer amount of stamina needed to utilize the attack in battle heavily belittles its damage potential, making the attack only truly useful to beginning trainers that would rather deal with the attack's inherent risks than rely solely on scratch attacks if it means potentially dealing more damage. It is also known that because the attack actually strikes multiple times in a short period of time, it can be used to override the effects of the Sturdy ability and items like the Focus Sash or Focus Band, as well as amplify the effects of the Weak Armor ability. Since the Fury Swipes attack is performed blindly and without much regard to target location, fairly agile Pokémon can usually dodge most if not all of the strikes involved in the attack in close quarters, and damaging the bladed accessories used to execute the attack can further reduce its damaging impact, though there is no way to easily stop the attack once it gets going. Although the attack is able to take advantage of abilities like Sturdy Weak Armor, as well as items like Focus Sashes and the Focus Band, the amount of damage done by even a few blows is still minor enough in many cases to be negligible, reducing its overall effectiveness in line with more powerful attacks with similar functions. Armor of almost any quality can easily repel the damage done by each individual strike, making it nearly impossible to make any use of the attack unless an opponent is unarmored. Even so, weaker armor may become slightly damaged by the attack's repeated blows, which can potentially lead to complications if combat lasts for an extended period of time or if one's Pokémon is relatively low on energy. In effect, the cut attack involves a Pokémon using its sharp claws, bladed armatures, or sharply edged body parts to inflict a clean, cutting laceration on a target. While a move like the scratch attack generally only involves a light raking with some sort of bladed appendage, the cut attack takes this one step further and trades in a multi-digit raking for a single but powerful flesh-breaking cutting strike. The cut attack is relatively simple in its applications in battle and possesses many of the advantages present in the scratch attack, like the ability to generate breathing space in otherwise close quarters. However, it is not as powerful as the otherwise commonplace slash attack, and this is primarily because the method of delivering damage is different between the two. While the lacerations created by a cut attack are generally quite painful and can deal some decent damage against unarmored opponents, the actual damage output of the cut attack is relatively weak because it slices cleanly through flesh without causing much physical trauma in the process. Moves such as the slash attack, on the other hand, take advantage of serrated claws and blades by forcefully dragging them across the skin of opponents, causing intense physical trauma in addition to the damage dealt by lacerations. While this makes them much more powerful, it is duly noted that this forceful dragging also depletes the user's stamina much more quickly than what would be needed for a cut attack, making the move costlier and less useful for extended battles. Generally, beginning trainers will choose to stick by cut because of its simple applications and low stamina cost, but in turn will switch to more powerful moves once the Pokémon become able to utilize them, though the cut attack is still the way to go if one needs to minimize the amount of damage dealt to a target in a friendly battle. The primary issue with the cut attack, particularly among trainers, is that the move is almost only one of artificial creation originally, and was not naturally observed among any Pokémon outside of Farfetch'd until the introduction of the Ultra Beast species Kartana in recent times, effectively making it a signature attack of the two species. When Silphco released their first generation line of TMs and HMs, they only intended for them to be used by trainers for combat purposes. HMs in particular were initially designed as experimental devices for reproducing moves that had been custom taught to Pokémon by expert trainers, like the cut attack, for the benefit of other trainers that are otherwise less imaginative. The devices referred to as hidden machines because their limited production numbers and expensive constructs were initially unpopular and were almost never seen in use because of their rarity. When Silphco learned the moves were being applied in ways other than combat alone, like the woodcutting and logging industries, plus cutting down small bushes and trees that may block pathways, they quickly began to remarket them towards those specific industries, increasing the popularity and production numbers many times over with only a few months. As a consequence, the cut attack remained HM1 within every single generation of TMs and HMs produced by Silphco up until the discontinuation of HMs and the start of the 7th generation line, though it continues to be popular in usage among industries and traders alike globally, thanks in part to its inclusion as TM93 within the recent Sinnoh Special Edition set, even if the move is currently unavailable as of their 9th generation line of TMs. Since the cut attack requires a certain degree of precision to strike with just enough force to make a clean laceration, exceptionally agile Pokémon can dodge the attack in close quarters. Moreover, if the opponent is using a bladed accessory of some sort that can be damaged and broken, doing so to said accessory can potentially reduce the damage dealt by this attack. Armor can also further help reduce or negate the damage dealt by the attack. The cut attack is definitely not a move best designed to use in combat, but it can still prove to be a nasty weapon if abused in battle, and should be duly countered with decent defenses and especially armor of some sort to block out the cutting force of the move altogether. The false swipe attack is very similar to the cut attack in that it is designed to deal damage by lacerating a target, but the major focus of the false swipe attack is to restrain the overall force the attack delivers depending on the opponent's current HP total. Alone, its damage potential is about the same as the scratch attack. When an opponent is low in health, however, the user automatically restrains its overall impact even more, in turn only leaving an opponent with at least 1 HP. It appears that this process requires intense concentration and the ability to precisely measure an opponent's health, a skill that only a couple of species of Pokémon possess naturally. Nonetheless, the ability to eventually and always leave the opponent with at least 1 HP is a major advantage for trainers trying to catch wild Pokémon, especially if any team members that can inflict status conditions as well. Above all though, because the attack is always restrained from dealing maximum damage, the amount of stamina exerted using it is considerably low, making the false swipe attack one of the most inexpensive attacks available to a Pokémon. Add in a normally perfect accuracy rate, and it comes as no surprise the attack is popular among all sorts of trainers, leading Silphco to release the move as TM54 in their 4th through 7th generation line of TMs, and within the recent Sinnoh Special Edition set, as well as TM94 in the 8th generation line and TM57 in the 9th generation line, existing as one of the most successful TMs to date, much to the delight of trainers everywhere. Since an opponent needs sharp claws or bladed appendages of some sort to execute the false swipe attack, damaging these bladed accessories can help reduce or negate the damaging power of the attack. Otherwise, it is exceptionally difficult to dodge in close quarters. Armor can, however, help reduce or negate the damage dealt by the attack. Under most circumstances, the false swipe attack is usually something that can be ignored for the most part in battle, as it does not have the capacity to actually knock out the opposition. The only time any attention should be paid is if the opponent is trying to combine with adverse weather effects or status conditions, but even these situations are uncommon at best. In essence, the quick attack is nothing more than a rapid forceful strike that hits an opponent before they can even react. While its exact method of execution varies among Pokémon, the Quick Attack's basic functions remain consistent among all species. The attack itself is nothing more than an opponent strike meant to cause damage, nothing more. What makes it interesting, however, is that it can be used to strike first in any battle, even if an opponent is much faster than the user. Unlike traditional physical attacks, the Quick Attack is performed more as a sudden, unplanned strike than anything else, as the user oftentimes ends up moving faster than its brain can coordinate its muscles. In effect, it's more of a massive nerve spasm than anything else, in turn explaining why its damage potential is relatively low. Regardless, the fact that the Quick Attack can be used to strike an opponent first, regardless of speed difference, of course, unless the opponent uses a move of their own heightened priority, makes it a worthwhile move to invest in early on, particularly because a fairly wide variety of Pokémon are actually able to learn the move naturally. Because the method of execution varies for the Quick Attack, methods of physically countering the move differ from species to species. Regardless though, the attack is exceptionally difficult to dodge in close quarters. Armor can, however, help reduce and negate the damage dealt by this attack. Despite its limitations, the Quick Attack can oftentimes end up being a trainer's biggest fear if the Pokémon have fairly weak defenses. Since dodging is rarely a viable choice, sturdy defenses or an increased priority move from a faster Pokémon are the only real tactical measures that can be taken to deal with this attack in battle. In effect, the Extreme Speed Attack is truly nothing more than a powered-up form of the Quick Attack with almost all the same basic properties. The attack itself is a massive uncontrolled muscle spasm that rockets a Pokémon straight into an opponent without any warning or preparation. However, the spasm is far more extreme in this case and involves literally every single muscle in the user's body, resulting in a blinding strike that is performed so quickly that the human eye cannot register it and is anything more than a simple blur of movement. Considering that the attack is twice as powerful as a standard Quick Attack though, seeing the attack is the last thing that needs to be worried about in battle. Unfortunately, this tremendous burst of motion is extremely taxing on the user's stamina, but the attack comes with one more benefit that makes it more than worthwhile. There is no other direct attack capable of actually striking before an Extreme Speed Attack except another Extreme Speed Attack, though some moves like Pursuit and Fake Out can still be executed more quickly as a result of their special attributes. Since such scenarios are few and far between in any battle, this means that any Pokémon capable of using this attack is effectively guaranteed to get the first strike in any confrontation. Interestingly enough though, this particular move is also the reason why Pokémon in possession of it, such as Arcanine and the legendary Dragon Rayquaza, tend to be elusive even with modern technology tracking their every movement. As with the Quick Attack, because the method of execution varies from the Extreme Speed Attack, methods of physically countering the move differ from species to species. Regardless though, the attack is exceptionally difficult to dodge in close quarters. Strong armor in general can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by this attack, but weaker armor is unlikely to perform as well without sustaining critical damage or failing altogether. The Extreme Speed Attack is probably among the most devious of moves for its ability to strike without warning and without mercy. As such, without strong defenses in place, there's little can be done to prevent considerable damage from this blindingly fast attack. Considered to be a specialty attack for Delibird and Iron Bundle, the present attack essentially involves generating and releasing balls of uncontrolled energy towards a target in the hopes of inflicting damage. As a result of their lifestyle and anatomy, Delibird are unable to learn much in the way of offense and would essentially be classified as little more than odd birds if it were not for the utterly confusing and bizarre present attack, a move shared between them and Iron Bundle only. Believed to be a consequence of them using their tail to carry food around at all times among other functions, these creatures are able to attack opponents up close and far by generating and rapidly releasing balls of unstable energy which promptly explode in an opponent's face after making contact. Sadly, however, these creatures are actually unable to completely control the properties of the energy balls, and thus the attack's actual effects are effectively random. About 40% of the time, the attack will inflict damage with a base power of 40. 30% of the time, it will inflict damage with a base power of 80, and 10% of the time, it will inflict damage with a base power of 120. While this might not seem like a bad idea for casual fights, it is duly noted that about 20% of the time, the energy balls will not explode but actually be absorbed into the target, in turn restoring about 80 HP worth of damage to them. It is this unfortunate trait that gives the move its name and makes it little more than a weak gamble in most cases. It might at least give Delibird a fighting chance in some cases, but for more experienced trainers there is little that this move can do without making the user's trainer nervous beyond belief. Due to its unique attributes, there is no way to directly counter the present attack, although moderately agile Pokémon can still dodge the attack with enough room. Strong armor in general can also help reduce and negate the damage dealt by this attack, though weaker armor is unlikely to perform as well without sustaining critical damage or failing altogether at higher power levels. Overall, the present attack is little more than a quirk, though it sees very little battle time and will probably never be seen outside of young trainers with Delibird or an Iron Bundle. Even if it is available to an opponent, the fact that a move only has a 10% chance of dealing extensive damage makes it little more than a minor nuisance in most cases. In effect, the natural gift attack involves the user harnessing the natural power of its held berry and striking with a unique physical blow. The true mechanics of the natural gift attack are still poorly understood, despite how simple it otherwise appears, but regardless, its capabilities on the battlefield are more than apparent to most. The natural gift attack is designed to take advantage of a Pokemon's held berry and use the natural chemicals and energies contained within it to fuel a decent physical blow that takes actual damage potential and typing from the berry itself. As such, the actual damage done by this attack will depend completely upon the berry being held, but will always have either a base power of 80, 90, or 100, and the type will depend upon a number of factors, including color, the special attributes of the berry, and even its shape, but will always be the same for berries of the same type. In using this attack, the user consumes its berry and thus is denied the right to use that berry when needed, or use the attack again until they can acquire another berry, but for a pinch hit, this attack can certainly be a considerable surprise to the unprepared and can help a struggling Pokemon gain some considerable ground in battle. It was for this reason that Silco decided to release the move as TM83 within their 4th generation line of TMs, but a lack of strong sales numbers eventually led to its discontinuation. Since the natural gift attack's base power type will completely depend upon the berry the user is holding, countering or otherwise reducing the damage done by this attack will be completely arbitrary to the situation at hand. All that can be said is that the attack is exceptionally difficult to dodge, so the only countermeasure that can be taken is potentially memorizing what kinds of berries have what effects if the move is available to the opposition. The Nature Power technique is designed to enable Pokemon otherwise lacking in offense to harness the natural energies of the surroundings to generate an attack without exerting a lot of stamina, though the exact mechanism behind this power is still unknown. As a consequence, however, the move that results from a Nature Power technique is completely dependent upon the surrounding environment and can vary wildly depending upon not only terrestrial features present, but even the time of year and local bioforms, making the move somewhat inconsistent at best. Generally though, the Nature Power technique is a tremendous benefit in that it enables Pokemon to utilize types of attacks that are otherwise completely inaccessible to them and can effectively deliver both physical and special attacks just as if the user was actually using the move directly and not a technique derived from the move in question. It certainly might not be the most accurate and efficient way to deal measurable damage in some cases, but if it's accessible, the Nature Power technique can prove to be more than a saving grace to the few species able to naturally learn it. This in turn seems to have been the motivation behind its inclusion as TM96 in Silpho's 6th and 7th generation line of TMs, though lagging sales ultimately led to its discontinuation afterwards. Since the move that the Nature Power technique transforms into depends upon the current environment, methods for countering the move will vary depending upon the surrounding battlefield. In effect, the Splash technique is little more than a weak Hopper Splash performed out of either desperation or due to a lack of available moves. The only true reason the Splash technique is actually considered a move at all, as strange as it may seem, is because there are in fact some species of Pokemon that otherwise have no way to defend themselves other than flopping around pointlessly early in their lives. Originally, the Splash technique was not considered an official move at all until the case of Magikarp and Phoebus, among others, were carefully considered because, as it turns out, these creatures are unable to learn any form of offense or defense for a good portion of their life. As such, the move was forcefully labeled as a true technique and has remained as such ever since. There is, in effect, nothing that can be said about the Splash technique, as it does absolutely nothing and is only benefited by the fact that it requires almost no stamina at all to execute. In all other senses, the move is worthless and has no proper place on any battlefield. As a result, countering a pointless move is in and of itself pointless, so there is no reason to do anything else but laugh upon seeing this move being executed.
That's it for now, but look forward to the next set of moves here on TM Technical Movement. Thank you all for watching this video. It always brings me great joy to see others enjoying the work I do to try and make the world of Pokemon and the fascinating creatures that lay inside of it feel as real as they possibly can. If you really enjoy my work, please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe, as I always do my best to respond to any and all comments that are left on my videos. In addition, if you wish to learn more about my work and help support it, you can find links to my Patreon page, as well as email and other contact information to my work on DeviantArt in the video description down below. Furthermore, you can find a link to my Discord server there as well if you'd like to get a first glimpse at what videos are coming up next and converse with other fans of the world of Pokemon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and have a wonderful rest of your day.